everybody, and welcome back to Guess What? We finally have a title, and boy, we are debuting the title with a damn good guest. Their book, I Wish You All the Best, recently debuted this summer, and this book's so damn good that it's got customers from the UK special ordering it from America for double the price just to read the damn thing. Not saying that's what I did, but that's definitely what I did. We are now giving the show a title. Welcome to the creator's conscience. The conscience we will be getting into today, if you've not guessed already from the name of the book. Please welcome Mason Deaver to the show. How are you doing, mate?
Good, how are you doing?
I just got back from Dungeons and Dragons. It's late at night. We've been talking about doing this for ages. I thought I was going to have to play Crash Bandicoot to wait before you got back on, but you were right here, and we just spent like the last 5 minutes talking about Spider-Man, so I'm pretty fucking good.
It's been a good day. Any day when you talk about Spider-Man is a good day.
That is very true. We do love the webhead. We can sort of get right into this now. Your book's kind of been blowing up. I think you're definitely probably the most high-profile author I've had on the show thus yet.
Oh, that's actually very surprising to me.
Oh yeah, the people I've talked to have either been unpublished or they're just waiting to be published. Like, I had Farida on a few months ago, and of course her book's coming out next year. But I was really excited to talk to you because I can tell from your Twitter and stuff. I follow you on Twitter and see all your progress. And from what you read and what you write, me and you have a lot in common in terms of the kind of stories that we love, both writing and reading. So what drew you to this kind of warm, loving, heartfelt story in LGBT fiction as opposed to a lot of maybe some of the darker ones that we see more often?
It's a funny question because I love heartwarming love stories. I love them. I could never get enough of a nice warm love story, and especially if it's queer, it's my favorite thing. Really, when it came down, because the original drafts of the book did tend to be a little darker, I went into themes that I ended up, not pursuing. I changed some character motivations and what happens. And I would make the argument the book does have its darker moments, but at the end of the day, it is a very happy, loving story where the characters survive until the end. And that was what was really important to me, was the capacity for this to be a very high-profile book and one of the first high-profile books to feature a non-binary protagonist. It was important to me that it ended happy. I don't mind whenever queer writers write about their own tragedy. That's their space and like their box to tell the story, and that's just not mine. I don't jive with that kind of storytelling.
That's totally fair. I think that's something me and you also have in common, because I've tried writing dark stuff and I just can't do it. It comes off as either kind of that weird dark where it's like not really dark, or very edgelordy, and that's just not fun to read.
And then it's such a double-edged sword, because then I have a hard time writing the asshole characters. Like,
really? Well, based off this book, I might disagree with that.
Ben's parents aren't outliers. In my opinion, they were fairly easy to villainize. I like to think that I added a bit of depth to their mom. But yeah, when it comes to writing the asshole characters, especially the asshole who I want to through the book sort of redeem and help the audience to understand, it's very difficult, because I don't want this character who I love to be mean, especially to my other characters. I don't like it.
Which is kind of interesting to me, because I read this during my summer vacation in Cyprus, and it was just I looked forward to coming back to it like every day after work. But even though you say you're not that great at writing the asshole character, but see, even with Ben, what I found with this character was that they're ultimately the protagonists, but they what I do like in teen stories is when the authors don't write them as perfect people who are just like little saints. And that was something to me that felt really true of a lot of like really great high school stories, where it's kind of the argument where these characters don't have to be always likable, they have to be flawed, but you want to be able to root for them. And you know what? I definitely felt that with Ben. And you did a really great job with the parents as well. I mean, anytime they showed up, I mean, sometimes I can imagine it maybe hitting a bit close to home for a lot of us queer writers.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that you've put that out and made it in such an accessible format, I mean, props to you. That is a really great achievement.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, like what you said about Ben, a complaint that I get a lot of the time is Ben is a liar. Ben tells people that they're fine even when they aren't, and it's not something I did on purpose. It's something I've sort of come to grips with over the course of editing it, and then eventually being published and seeing these people talk about it. Is that Ben is an asshole through large portions of the book. They're very self-focused. They are a liar. Sometimes they're very deadpan and dry, and they say jokes, but they maybe don't mean them as jokes. And that was sort of a happy accident, because that is a lot of the time what anxiety does to you, especially depression, and then whenever you're living with. I personally believe, and I guess since I'm the author, it's not a headcanon, but like some form of PTSD from the traumatic event at the beginning of the book. It can turn you into a different person. And I like to think that I turned Ben around towards the end. You know, there's a moment of self-reflection they have that I am really fond of. But yeah, I'm glad that I made them imperfect, and it does suck to see whenever people don't. I don't want to tell people what they do and don't get, but it does kind of suck to see when people don't exactly get there with understanding where Ben's coming from.
And I think empathy is a big part of that, because you know, even in the teen stories that I imagine, well, me and you love, like one for example that I adore is The Karate Kid, and Danny LaRusso's a dick.
Yeah.
But I mean, both him and Johnny are dicks, so that's explored in Cobra Kai. But there's still likable things to them, and even though I like writing the sort of the sweet kind of characters, like with Millie I have in Moonflower, or someone that I wrote based off Edward Scissorhands, I'm not really a big fan of the all-rounded good character, because it's not that interesting to write about unless you're doing it in kind of a like maybe if you were writing Superman that way, because that fits that character. But the most interesting things about teen characters is their imperfections, because you know, whether teens realize it or not, they have deep-seated flaws about themselves that they don't share with other people. And you know, showing that through Ben, like I even see that in, I mean, I imagine, well, based off who's on your tag for the cover, you know what Love, Simon is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like even that, like one of the biggest complaints I saw about Love, Simon was that they were mad at his friends and at the choices he made. But I'm like, you know, these are teenagers in really stressful moments. They're not perfect. They're gonna make mistakes. But what really makes the difference is, you know, how do they tackle those mistakes? How do they like grow as people from beyond those mistakes? And I saw a lot of that with Ben's character arc, and I thought you did it in a way I wasn't expecting. I mean, can we talk spoilers here?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think the book's been out for 4 months now, so I mean, you know.
Okay, spoilers. The part I was not expecting was the parents to come back during the art section.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I'm no stranger to watching like nail-biting thrillers, like you know, your Psychos or your Misery, but when that was happening, I swear I was reading it literally like this. I'm like, for those who can't, I mean, this is a podcast, you can't see that I'm biting my nails and like holding, well, not the book, my microphone, but imagine it's the book in the other hand. And you know, something you also did in this was that villainizing the parents, because I imagine that's a hard thing to do, especially if some people might try and read that into, oh, is that how you feel about parents in general? But with this one in particular, it's one of those villain roles where they definitely don't feel like they are the villain. And, I mean, the mother does try, at least, not in a very good way.
Yeah.
But the dad, fucking hell. Oh, my God. Oh, God. It was like... okay, actually, you even referenced this movie in the beginning. It reminded me of, like, how careless the dad from Home Alone is. Like, I am convinced Peter McAllister paid off those robbers.
I mean, I can see that theory.
Yeah.
But, the parents, like you said, the parents are the villains, and at the same time are not the villains. I would say the true villain of the story is Ben's anxiety and depression and the things that they go through. They're all hurdles that stop Ben from achieving what they want to achieve, from being able to live openly. The parents are kind of just there more for my sake in a storytelling way, if that makes any sense at all.
It does.
I thankfully have never struggled with my mother kicking me out of the house. My friends always joke that there's no way she does not know that I am just a raging queer, but we just don't talk about it, so
Yeah, I get that feeling too.
if the most we can do is not talk about it, great, I'm good. We're fine. But there are so many parents out there, especially I think parents of trans kids who kick their kids out of the home. I thought that was an important thing to showcase, as painful as it is. I've had people ask me, why didn't you redeem the parents? Isn't family important? And to me, that's why Hannah is there. That's why Nathan and Sophie and Malika are there. Because in a way, even though Ben is related to Hannah, their relationship isn't on a sibling level at the beginning of the book. That's why, for me, the crux of the book is a found family of sorts. You have Hannah, Thomas, Nathan, Sophie, Malika. You have these people who Ben doesn't know and eventually becomes comfortable enough with to consider them family, to come out to them. And back to the parents, it was important to me to showcase that you don't have to forgive everyone who wrongs you. No matter who they are to you, they could be your parents, they could be your sister, they could be a best friend, they could be a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a partner. If someone hurts you enough, you don't have to forgive them for what they did. I highly suggest talking about it and sort of moving on past it, but that doesn't mean you have to do that with them. You don't have to allow them to be a part of your life. And that was an important point of the book for me to make. You have all these queer kids who worry about their parents and who are kicked out of the home, and I thought it was important to showcase that Ben is a character who gets a happy ending without their parents, without getting that forgiveness or giving that forgiveness. And so that's why they're important to me.
Yeah, and I would add on to that, I think happy endings for queer stories, I'm not... Okay, I have to be careful about how I phrase this, because, like you said at the beginning, you don't want to tell anybody how to write their own queer experiences. But I do wish ones with happy endings were a bit more common than they are now.
Yeah.
Because I'm quite frankly sick of seeing the queer stories where it's oh, we have queer representation. Oops, they just died.
Yeah. And it gets really frustrating, especially whenever you don't, I feel, expect it. It's one thing for me to go into an Adam Silvera novel. I know what Adam's going to do to me. I know he's going to rip my heart out and shred it in pieces.
Isn't one of the titles they both die at the end?
Spoilers. No, I'll tell you this. I don't know about Infinity Sun just yet. I have the arc. I need to read it. But I I guess What If It's Us has a more hopeful ending than most of his books, and so does History. But History is a book that breaks you down from page one and then just keeps knocking you down. But yeah, especially books like More Happy Than Not. I have a very personal connection to More Happy Than Not, and it's one of my favorite books of all time. I know what to expect with Adam versus, there's some books where it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and I'm just like, oh, that was a bummer.
Well, it's kind of weird to constitute what you'd consider a happy ending, because there's some things, I mean, you get your classic happy endings like fairy tales, and, I mean, you reference Home Alone. I cry at the end of that movie every time when Kevin hugs his mom. Yeah. I'm sure I'm not alone in that, but even something like Edward Scissorhands I'd consider a somewhat happy ending, even though the ending of that movie's, like, rooted in tragedy.
Yeah.
Because
I think that a lot of the time, at least for me personally, there's a very big distinction between happy and hopeful endings. Like a hopeful ending is like, to me, like Edward Scissorhands, like it leaves you in the middle of something, but then kind of implies that there are greater things to come. It's that way with like What If It's Us ends with, I guess, spoilers, it's been out for a year now. The two main characters, Ben and Arthur, are not together. They're in different states. And, like, the end of the book, the epilogue, is just them starting to talk and, like, rekindle that relationship. And it kind of hints at things to come now that they are different people. But, yeah, there's, like, a fine line between happy and hopeful for me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, too. And I've not read that, but that is something I'm kind of experimenting with as well. I'm not sure how you feel about this, but I made this whole thread about, like, a month ago about seeing stories where they feature breakups as like a main plot point. I don't like that they always try to villainize the ex in the scenario. I mean, unless it's like an abusive ex or something like that, by all means villainize that. But especially for younger audiences, I do feel that they should know that, breakups are sad. They're a hard part of your life, but that doesn't mean that they're the end of the world. Doesn't mean you can't still be friends with the person you're with. Doesn't mean you have to forget the great memories that you had. That's, hell, based on who I was in high school, that's a story that I wish I had, because the minute I lost my first relationship, I was just thinking, oh, fuck. I am gonna die alone with a bunch of cats eating my soul for the rest of my life.
It's a hard thing, and I try to think. I have a friendship breakup in my second book. I haven't had any. I have a breakup in what could be book 3, but that one, the ex is very bad, and that's the whole point of the book. But yeah, no, yeah, it's relationships are weird. And I do love how young adult is like covering a wider range of them. You have like so many sibling relationships and parental relationships and best friendships, and I love that it's going that way.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Is YA something that you're kind of set in, or would you ever like want to explore to other audiences like middle grade, or I don't know, new adults, kind of like YA but with college age kids, right?
I shall neither confirm nor deny anything because I do not want to jinx myself.
This is what happens when I get agented authors.
No, nothing is confirmed. I would like to step out of young adult eventually. I have too many ideas, and a lot of them fit better in an adult setting. Also, just in my head, I've had this talk with Becky Albertalli, I think, but
I mean, how many people can say that? I was casually chatting to this famous author one day.
I do have her phone number. That made 18-year-old me fucking scream. I think that there's definitely going to come a time, and it's a discussion I don't think that has been had yet, because young adult as we know it now is still very much a new genre compared to a lot of other genres. Literary fiction's been around for God knows how long, but YA feels like it just started in the 90s, like at the earliest, but YA as we know it now was like 2008, 2010, I would say. you haven't really had a chance for an author to quote unquote grow out of the genre. But like I said, I've had this talk with Becky Albertalli before. There's definitely going to come a time when I feel like I no longer know what teenagers are like. I mean, I'm 24 now. Oh god, don't make me do math. Oh god, that's 6 years out of high school. Jesus Christ. But I still like to think that I have a grasp on what it's like to be younger and, millennial, and sort of capturing that humor and that self-awareness and things like that. But there's going to come a time, maybe when I'm 30 or 40 or 50, where I'm going to want to keep writing. But if I keep writing YA, my characters are going to be very old and very outdated compared to what kids are like then. So it's not just that I want to write other genres, but it's also, in my head, it's going to be a very wise career move to kind of already have my foot in one door and out the other.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, all great authors do have to evolve one way or the other. Anyway, I mean, I see the authors I follow try and do that, like with every story they do. That's something I'd want to do as well. I'd never want to do the same story twice. And I want to get into, this is called Creator's Conscience as of 21 minutes ago. What were the kind of influences you had growing up that made you want to be a storyteller? Like, for me, it was always people like Neil Gaiman and Stephen King and all those really weird, genre-specific but still heartfelt stories. I'm really curious with what that was like for you. I mean, we mentioned John Hughes before, but is there anything else that had a big influence on you?
So, I don't like to admit it, because it's a very embarrassing time in my life. What inspired me to write in the first place was trying to, as a 13-year-old, mind you, write very elaborate political thrillers.
That was unexpected.
Most 13-year-olds don't know a goddamn thing about politics. But I was reading a lot of Dan Brown. At 13, I read The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which is not appropriate for a 13-year-old, but I read it regardless.
I saw that movie when I was 13. I know what you mean.
Yep. I saw that movie with my father, and...
Oh dear, that would have been awkward.
Yep, he did not know what the story was about. But after that, and realizing that I'm 13, don't know shit, and cannot write, I put it down and always kind of toyed with different storytelling elements, like specifically games like The Sims 3. I was addicted to, and I would always make up my own stories for these families, and I think that's kind of where it started. I feel like The Sims 3 is a gateway for a lot of writers, especially like queer writers. But it was that, and then I got super serious about writing whenever I was 17, 18, and trying to complete NaNoWriMo for the first time. There's a fantasy story that I wrote that I'd love to revisit somehow, but I don't write fantasy. I rarely read fantasy, so I don't think that is for me. But around whenever I was 21, I started thinking about I Wish You All the Best, and the book that would eventually become that. It went through a lot of drafts and a lot of rewrites and a lot of character changes, but yeah, eventually I got there.
Yeah, you did. Can I just mention that I love this cover? This,
I love it too. Sarah Maxwell's an amazing artist.
I'm not sure if I'd call it minimalist, but I do like this kind of pop art-y feel.
Yeah. The colors really stick out to you. Yeah,
I mean, I just picked up the first volume of Saga today at the comic book store, and the color palette kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah.
Oh god. So with that in mind, with the thing that most kind of got to me about I Wish You All the Best was something that I see talked about a lot of, especially in the I'm a lot in the film community as well as in the writing community, and one thing I always hear is there are no more original ideas, everything has been done, you can't do anything else, you got to blow the audience's mind every time. And this I wouldn't say it's like one of those blow your mind books, but it's definitely a fresh perspective on something that we already know, and that's something that I'm surprised that more people aren't embracing. I mean, you know the kind of dickheads that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But like, I've always had the view that you can tell similar stories, but if you give them a fresh perspective, like from a queer perspective or a person of color perspective, you're gonna bring a freshness to it that's gonna excite new audiences. Like, that's part of the reasons why I think things like Black Panther were so successful, because it was speaking to an audience that had never really gotten that kind of feeling before. And it's also something I feel this book does, because I've never seen like a sort of cutesy high school romance with a non-binary protagonist, and it was something I was never really aware of. And reading it, I'm like, I want 100 more books like this per year.
It's been such an interesting journey, especially regarding that, because like you said, it is all about perspective and the audience that want that perspective. I feel like this conversation happens on Twitter maybe every few months or so, unfortunately, but someone will say that a trope is tired and unoriginal and like all the books with this trope are bad, and then people make the very correct and very obvious statement that the trope is boring because the way that you've seen it 1,000 times is from the cis, white, straight, able-bodied perspective. That is boring. Like, there are still fresh ways, I think, to do that. But again, it's a narrative that's been told 100 times, and if you want more stories like that, there's catalogs of books that you can just go and pick up that have that. With a queer perspective or a Black perspective, a Latinx perspective, a disabled perspective, a chronically ill perspective, or any like combination of those, you get a story that really has never been told before, because a lot of genres are just now getting to where they are allowing these stories to be told, and it really sucks. But I think it's also a testament that people want these stories. Like you said, Black Panther, it broke box office records because Black audiences hadn't seen a Black superhero since Blade, I think, was the last one before Black Panther, and
even then, I don't really consider Blade to be like the same level, because it was an R-rated movie. So like, it's not like with Black Panther, I feel like that's that audience getting like their Christopher Reeves Superman.
Yeah, and it's such a triumph in that way, because all these people who have never been able to see themselves represented on a screen, they get to see that. And to me personally, it feels like a domino effect, because you have a little kid who their mom is taking them to see Black Panther, and they see Chadwick Boseman on the screen kicking ass, and that inspires them down the line to create their own kind of story that has someone like them in it. And then it's just kind of a domino multiplying effect from there, and you get more Black stories. It's the same with anything, I think. You have these kids, teens, even adults who see these stories where they finally feel they see themselves, and it inspires them to go out and create their own content, and then you just have more and more and more to pick from, and more people are inspired to speak their own truths and like write their own stories, and it just kind of spirals from there, and it's a really amazing thing to see. But yeah, with the perspective thing, it is tricky. I like in my books to be very tropey.
I mean, I can see that, but you execute them well.
Thank you. In everything that I have written so far, book 2 maybe not so much, but I'm everything I've written since book 2, because book 2 is massively depressive. Just a heads up. Everything past book 2 that I've written, I've tried writing adult rom-coms and like YA rom-coms, and they're so filled with all these tropes that I love to see where it's like, it's maybe enemies to friends to lovers, or there's a big misunderstanding, or oops, there's only one bed and we have to share it because there's no other beds,
and I'm not sleeping on that fucking floor no matter what you say.
No one wants to sleep on the floor. We want a bed. I love tropes, and I love when marginalized people who have never had the chance to write about them get to write about them, because it's so cool to see. Like a book, one of my favorite tropes is the royal trope. I love books that have like royalty in them. And then I read Alyssa Cole's Princess in Theory. I get all those titles mixed up. Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole is a royalty romance where the heroine doesn't know that her past, that her parents were royalty in this African country, and she has there's a prince, I forget, it's Theloso or Theoloso, or that's the name of the country, but the prince comes to America to like try and get her to fall in love with him, and it's really cute. The prince is an asshole to begin with, and so it has that kind of enemies to friends to something more thing, but yeah, it's amazing. I love that book so much, and it was really cool to get to see a Black author carry that and talk about the things that she wanted to talk about and handle these subjects how she wanted to handle them. It was just really awesome.
I'm gonna take a look for that now. That sounds pretty awesome. I mean, I've heard Alyssa Cole's name thrown around Twitter every so often, but I've never really looked into her work. But the way you described that sounds really fucking cool.
It's really good, and I really enjoy it. I'm reading the second one right now, but yeah.
I mean, I can sort of offer my own example on how perspective can always change a story, because like when I first started out, I was doing this sort of straight cis narratives because I thought, oh, that's kind of only what people want to read. I wasn't aware of the whole DV pit. People were wanting more of these stories things, and I don't suppose you've ever heard me talk about Moonflower, have you?
I have not, no.
Oh, well, that's I basically got sick of writing stories that were edgy, so I wanted to write something about someone who brought me a lot of joy. So I thought, I love my little cousin Millie, who's a complete dork. And so I thought, like, well, what was I like at that age, like 11 years old? I was constantly reading, like, comic books and these stories, wishing I could be like these characters. So I thought, what if you had a story where the nerdy character gets to meet their favorite fictional hero in, like, person, and then you go on kind of a road trip? But my thing with tropes is that I always like to turn them on their head. So I turned the fictional hero that gets brought to life into the villain. Because I thought about, this might surprise you, like, I'm surprised no other author ever did this, but imagine if a fictional character found out that their entire tragic backstory was being written by somebody else. Like, that would cause you to snap. Yeah. And that already sounded cool to me, but then when I heard about DV Pit and I thought, oh, maybe I can express more of myself in this, I made that main character queer. And then you kind of explore this whole thing of, oh, I want to get the bravery to come out to the people I love and the girl I have a crush on, but I don't know how to be brave, so I think I'm going to learn bravery from this person once I find this magic shit. I mean, it's a middle grade book. It's always got that kind of stuff in it, but then you kind of explore this whole feeling of, like, I feel like I'm being controlled by someone else, like I'm not living my own life, and that queer perspective, it's what's made me stick with writing that story for now about 3 years. And I mean, hopefully I'll be at the same stage you are when I turn 24, although I turn 24 next year, actually. So it's a bit of a timeline thing there. Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, I totally get with what you mean about perspective, and like it or not, even though people think that different perspectives to their own are just, like, sort of political statements and, like, are empty and, like, the whole forced diversity bullshit, which I'm sick of hearing about, it's not. I wish more people would view it as a way to, like, freshen up familiar stories and offer new takes on them, because anytime I read a new take on a story that I love, I'm always very excited about it, and it's definitely why I hope that you get to come to the UK at some point so I can get this motherfucker signed.
I hope so. I'd love to go one day.
If you're ever in Glasgow, I think Farida lives close to Glasgow also.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, there are some pretty cute bookstores around here.
Hopefully Scholastic will pay for me to go one day.
Oh yeah, I mean this never even got like an official UK release.
It has not. Whenever we sold the rights, it was only for US and Canadian distribution. So it sucks basically telling anyone outside the US or Canada that no, you cannot buy an ebook. And if you want a copy, you can only buy it in hardback, and you can only get it in English. Such is the whim of the publishing industry, unfortunately. I am happy that we have sold the rights in both Spanish and in Vietnamese. So those are two, specifically knowing people from areas that speak Spanish and Vietnamese, that's super important to me. Especially knowing queer content around, those areas of the world. It's going to be really cool to me to see that actually happen and have Spanish speaking and reading readers and Vietnamese readers actually able to enjoy my book. And that, it takes a while for translation, so I don't actually know when those might be out. Like, definitely not before next year. I would say, but yeah.
Well, and the final segment I always talk about here is, I've been curious about this ever since you kind of vaguely tweeted about it. I know there's probably no confirmation on it now, but I think you said maybe a while ago you wanted to write like either a non-binary or a trans version of a Spider-Man comic.
Okay, so I
want to hear all about this.
My number one dream is, first of all, a goal of mine is to branch outside of just writing books. I'd love to write comics. I'd love to write maybe scripts or publish articles or essays, like something in like a shorter form. I think would be really cool just to like have under my belt. But I love Spider-Man, and it's so difficult with where comics are at, especially right now. I highly doubt Marvel is going to be pushing for any Spider-Man content, because that happened. But the conversation always keeps coming up for like a queer Spider-Man, and I think the one thing that's always cool about Spider-Man is that Peter Parker is always like a millennial, or not millennial. He's always the teenage. What's that word? What generation? He's always the teenage generation. So I guess he's, what is that, Gen Z in these new ones?
If you read him in the 60s, he was kind of a dick.
Yeah. I also have feelings about the Raimi Spider-Man, but we won't get into that right now. But even in the first movie at the beginning, he is in high school, even though he doesn't look like he's in high school. Tobey Maguire was way too old. Whatever. Andrew Garfield's a teenager. Tom Holland's a teenager. Miles.
Andrew Garfield was like 30 when he was playing Spider-Man.
Yeah. Andrew Garfield has at least a little bit more believability, I think, but those movies are rough.
Second one is. First one's alright.
This might be a controversial opinion. I truly believe that Homecoming. I truly believe that Homecoming was the first good Spider-Man movie, and that's my hot take.
Oh damn! I find it hard to dislike any Spider-Man movie except the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, even that one, watching it in theaters, I was like, this is bad, but Spider-Man's on screen, so I'm having a good time, honestly.
I was kind of telling myself that I was liking it because I was really excited about Electro.
Yep, and Green Goblin and Gwen Stacy, and
I loved Dane DeHaan at that time. It was such a waste of his fucking acting talent.
He's in the last 20 minutes, and
they venomed him.
They really did. They truly venomed him. But no, when it comes to Spider-Man, I think that the fact that he's a teenager in almost every iteration you see him, and the fact that, teenagers, especially nowadays, are very open group of people who are more open to exploring sexuality, identity, things like that. I think it's really dumb that he, of all characters, has never been canonically queer in any kind of way. I don't think he has, at least, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, give me a Spider-Man comic and give me a Teenage Peter Parker, and I'll write the shit out of that. Or push me the Jason Reynolds route and just have me write a novel about Peter Parker. And I will neither confirm nor deny, but if Marvel was like, no, you can't make him trans or non-binary, I would do my absolute hardest to at least code him that way so that all the trans and non-binary readers can look at that and go, oh, I see what Mason did there. Yeah. Like, it's such a fandom thing that Peter is a bi trans boy, and like that's just kind of a thing that people accept. And I like, it's like the biggest piece of headcanon, I think, from like Spider-Man in recent memory. But it also doesn't help that, especially in Homecoming, they dressed him like a trans boy. Like, I don't want to say there's like a quote unquote trans fashion, but like there's a very familiar dress for trans people, especially trans boys, because you gotta wear what's comfortable and you're gonna hide things. And they dress Peter Parker like a trans boy, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
I do remember seeing that thread, actually, now that you mention it.
Yeah, like it's definitely like to me it's such a coded thing. Like, I don't know. I feel like there are also lines where he's like, he gets very defensive whenever I think Flash calls him a girl. He says things like, I'm a man, I think. And so, like, it speaks to...
Oh, yeah, and the Donald Glover song he does, yeah.
Yeah, on, like, a very visceral level, it speaks to a lot of trans viewers. And if it never comes to be, I like to think that I'm just going to write Spider-Man fanfiction, change the names, change the powers, and just try to get it published. At least I'll have that.
Well, honestly, if there's anything comics now are teaching me, and what Spider-Verse taught me, there's a Spider-Man for everybody. So
exactly.
I see no reason why that couldn't exist eventually.
Yeah, and oh boy, I know that if it ever happens, I'm going to completely shut down my Twitter because I don't want that, but fanboys are wild. But I also
know
that it would be incredibly amazing to have that, to say that I have my name associated with Spider-Man. Like
even if it's just like a one-off kind of Elseworldsy thing, I don't like why can that not exist?
Like, even if it's just for one issue where it's like the Steven Universe thing that just happened. It's one issue, it's 4 writers all covering different 5-page story arcs. Like, how cool would that be though? Like, have that. That'd be so.
I would read the hell out of that, but I mean, I'll read or watch anything Spider-Man related.
Exactly.
I'm curious what villain you would use if he ever did that.
Oh God.
I mean, I already mentioned I love Electro, but I'm calling dibs on Electro.
I love Electro. I think that, and I think it was specifically done very well in the Insomniac Spider-Man game. I wish it had been developed a little bit more towards the beginning, but it doesn't help that you know what happens. His name is literally Dr. Octopus, and he has a history of 50 years of being a bad guy. I really think that the father-son dynamic between Peter and Otto Octavius is very interesting. Yeah. I don't know if you ever played the Insomniac Spider-Man game.
I got that opening day and I played through it in a weekend.
It's so good. It is so good in the way that it handles the relationships of the characters, and especially like Aunt May. I still cry about that. like Mary Jane, and I think like Doc Ock is a central character for Peter. Even in Spider-Man 2, we don't get to see a lot of their history pre-accident, but it's very heavily implied that Doc Ock is a father figure for Peter when he's lived a life of losing father figures. I think it's a very tragic thing for Peter that he loses all these figures in his life, and I really think that would be interesting to delve into.
I would definitely fucking read that. That sounds dope. I mean, I actually thought like, I mean, have you seen this the new series Euphoria?
I have not. I wish I had.
Yeah, because there's a trans girl actress on that, Hunter Schafer. I think she would be a great Gwen Stacy.
Oh.
I know.
Honestly, make every Spider-Man character trans. I'm here for it. Give it to me.
I mean, if after this, like, you see a picture of her, like, I look at her and I see Gwen Stacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen with Spider-Man after that whole Sony deal. I'm actually, as long as Tom Holland's still Spider-Man, I don't mind it.
Honestly, yeah, I'm the same way. I'll see anything that has Tom Holland Spidey in it. That's just a fact.
Plus, I'm hearing rumors that Kraven the Hunter might be the villain.
That would be a good one too. I know Kraven has a lot of history with Spider-Man.
I kind of want Nicolas Cage to play him.
Yeah.
Like crazy Mandy Nicolas Cage.
That would be amazing and awful at the same time. Like every Nicolas Cage performance.
Accurate. I mean, well, let's not talk about the last time he played a comic book character.
Amazing and awful.
Mind you, he was also in Kick-Ass, so I don't know.
Yeah, he redeemed himself a little bit. He was in 2 of those Ghost Rider movies, so it's like,
I mean, those Ghost Rider movies are just weird. In all the wrong ways.
They're awful, awful films. I can't believe I ever thought the second one might be decent.
I'm with you there. I accidentally bought tickets to see that, and I regret it so much.
I never saw it, but I saw the trailers, and I was like, oh, this could be good. Like,
what were you thinking?
No, it's not. It's really not.
Andrew, I don't think they're doing anything really big with Ghost Rider in the MCU anyway. I mean, unless you're saying Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but
I don't know. I'm not a big. I'm specifically only a Marvel fan for Spider-Man. The MCU is too much for me. I don't read many comics, if any at all. Like Spider-Man is just my character.
I get that. Peter Parker's honestly my all-time favorite fictional character. Someone I can always relate to. But I think we're more or less coming towards the end of this now. Just want to thank you so much for spending your time with me. This has been a really great interview, and so I just want to let people know where can they find you, and if you got anything coming out soon or anything you want to plug besides the obvious.
So I actually have to go to my Instagram because I never remember what my username is. My Twitter, I got the good one. It's just at Mason Deaver, MasonDeaver. My Instagram is that, but with an underscore between my names, so it's Mason_Deaver. I just had a few appearances that I'm going to be doing in the fall come up, so the picture of my schedule is on Instagram where you can come and see me in the last half of the year. And what's coming up next is The Ghosts We Keep, which is a young adult non-horror book about a teenager who loses his twin brother in a tragic accident and the aftermath of that, and depression, anxiety, PTSD, things of that nature. It's very sad, and I will warn everyone. But yeah, that comes out hopefully late next year. We don't have a release date, but yeah, it should be next year.
Well, by the way, to Mason's publishers, the UK kind of wants this too. I want to walk into my Waterstones and see that.
It would be a dream of mine.
Yeah. And well, if you're ever in Glasgow, hook me up.
Awesome, yeah.
And thank you guys so much for listening to this. As always, just follow Mason on all those things. Check out I Wish You All the Best if you can. If you're in America, great. You can probably find it anywhere you can go. If you're in the UK, do what I do and save up your work tips and then order it off. I don't know where I got. I think I got it from your website. That was really complicated to order it from, though. I usually order from like eBay and stuff. But it's definitely worth it. It's a really sweet, fun read if you're a fan of those kind of cutesy rom-coms, but with a bit of a new perspective. And Mason, I just have one more thing to say to you. Thank you for being here, and I wish you all the best. I was totally just building to that.
Yeah, it's my favorite thing when people do that.
I have been building to that this whole episode, not gonna lie.
I like to think that I gave people an easy out. Whenever I'm ending an email, I can just go, I wish you all the best, and then send it out.
If that becomes like your catchphrase for the rest of your career, that would be cool.
Oh, God. I don't know if I want all that. That's a lot.
All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. See you later.